Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. A lot has changed since the last time I've been here. You hear that? We have a baby. His name is Zethus, and I'm so excited to be sharing my labor and delivery story with you. We totally thought we were going to be able to do a vlog. However, shout out to all the people who do vlogs out there, but in our situation, it just didn't work because we didn't have any family come up for the labor and delivery. So Moses needed to be like really there and present and help me. And it just wasn't realistic to film at that time. So with that being said, let's hop into it. I'm going to check on the baby first. Okay, so don't mind me if I look to the side. I have a bunch of notes written down because I didn't want to forget any details, and I wanted to give you guys as much information as possible. So first things first, my water broke at 38 weeks and 2 days. We had a midwife appointment that Monday, and you know, we went in and they were talking about doing a cervical sweep and kind of, which is a massage of the cervix. That's a cute bun. Anyways, and I was a little nervous about it. I didn't know how a cervical massage would feel. But I didn't have to think any further about it because that very night, my water broke. And I was really confused on what was going on because it wasn't like what you see on TV or the movies or anything like that. It was, I was sitting on the toilet and I readjusted myself on the toilet and I heard this pop. And I'm like, okay. And out came a bunch of liquid, but I wasn't peeing. I didn't understand where this liquid was coming from. And then it clicked. I was like, oh shit, my water's breaking. So I kept a bunch of Depend diapers there for after birth, but I didn't realize how handy it would come before birth because I was leaking a ton of liquid. And then let me back up a little bit. At that midwife appointment, they gave me a few tinctures to try to induce labor naturally, so the natural tinctures. I can't tell if he like has gas or if he's just stretching or... So anyway, the tinctures they gave me, I needed to take like every hour or something like that. And they're like little shots. They don't taste the best, but you know, I was willing to try anything to get labor going without like naturally, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be induced or anything like that. So I wanted to just, not that that was even a question to be induced, but I just wanted my body to do its thing. And if these tinctures will help, cool. Well, water broke and I was having some strong contractions, but they didn't really have a pattern or anything like that. Moses got up the next day, he went to work, and the whole day I was having contractions. Again, there was no pattern to them. However, they were pretty strong. So I kind of stayed in bed all day and, you know, informed my doula on what was going on. I informed the midwives on what was going on. I made it to 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. I think it was 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. Yeah. Yes, because Moses went to work on Tuesday. So 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. I tried to labor at home as much as possible because I wanted to be in the comfort of my own home. And everyone knows, like, when you give birth, you're really primal, and you know, you're loud, and whatever the case may be. And I just wanted to be in the comfort of my own home. Okay, so I made it to 2 a.m. and at that point I called the doula and I called the midwives and I was like, I have to come into the birthing center. Things really feel like they're moving along. I get there and they did a cervical check and I was 5 centimeters already. Whew, I couldn't believe it. Like, half the work was done. Little did I know that the second half of, labor was way more intense than the first half. So even though half the work was done, I needed to prepare myself for what was to come. So when I get there, at the birthing center, they put me on the birthing ball for a minute, and I, very quickly realized that was very uncomfortable. For some people that works and is very comfortable, like pre-labor, I was on the birthing ball all the time. But in labor, it was very uncomfortable. So I labored mostly on the bed. However, every time I would have a contraction, I would need to pee. So I would have my contraction, run to the bathroom in my birth room, go pee, and another contraction would happen. And I would be like stuck on the toilet. And laboring on the toilet was really comfortable. It was uncomfortable going through the contractions, but the positioning of the toilet and you being straight up and kind of similar to the ball, but because you're on a hard surface on a toilet, it's a little more structured and it just felt really good. So anyways, eventually the contractions got pretty intense and the doula helped me as much as she could to regulate my breathing, slow down my breathing, have meaningful deep breaths. But anyone who's in labor knows that sometimes the contractions can get really tough, and that's just staying quiet is really hard. So there was a few times where I got kind of loud, but I guess in comparison to some other people that she serviced, I wasn't loud at all, what she said. But I felt like I was being loud because I don't normally yell like that. So anyways, let's see. So they got really, really, really intense and I got in the bathtub. And I was in the bathtub for a cool hour. They have a nice big tub. I could spread out. I can open my legs how I wanted to. The problem with when I was contracting is I noticed that I would clench all my muscles when I should have been doing the opposite. I should have relaxed myself and let my body do the work. But contractions is something I've never felt before. I had a tumor in my right ovary when I was younger, and contractions in birth definitely were more painful than that. But I don't want to scare anyone. It's not like painful, like it's meaningful. Like your body is doing work to deliver your baby, so it's meaningful. It's not like pain that you can't bear. Although I will say, an hour into the tub, I told my midwives, I'm like, I need some relief. Mind you, I broke my left hip a few years ago when Moses and I went on our Carnival cruise, and all the contractions that I was feeling I was not feeling them in my uterus. I was feeling them in my left hip, my left pelvic area, and that was the part that became unbearable. So I started like begging them. I'm like, I need relief. I need relief. And with every contraction, it got stronger and stronger and stronger. So, at first they wanted to try to like talk me out of it because, a lot of women do say that they can't do it at this point. And they want to, hold on, let me check the date. So they tried to talk me out of it and like ensure me that I can do it and this is natural. And I just tried to explain to them that I broke my hip and the pain that I'm feeling there is not natural. Again, I wasn't feeling my contractions in my uterus. I was feeling them in my left pelvic area, and the pain was freaking unbearable. But that's not typical for everyone who gives birth, so I don't want people to be scared of birth or scared of labor. The contractions up to that point were very bearable. It just, as I was progressing, became a little unbearable. So, as much as I hated making this decision, no one can predict what labor is going to be like or anything like that. So and it kills me to even say this or have it come out of my mouth, I asked to go to a hospital. The hospital was just not even a minute up the road, and as much as it, crushed my dreams because I wanted to give birth at the birthing center so badly, I just couldn't deal with that left pelvic pain. Before I left the birthing center, they did a cervical check and I was at 7 centimeters. So I made it to 7 centimeters naturally by myself. And at that point was where I just couldn't deal with that pelvic pain anymore. So, after talking with them for a little bit and telling them, no, I do need this relief, they called over to the maternity center and prepared them and let them know I was coming over. And as we were going over, I was having contractions in the car over every speed bump. It felt, even though it was like only a minute away, it felt like forever to get there because I had to stop every few minutes to have a contraction. So what was only supposed to take 1 or 2 minutes ended up taking like 10 or 15, and it just felt like forever. But anyways, we made it up there, and right as I'm filling out paperwork, I'm like bent over having contractions at the desk, and I'm just like, I need an epidural now. So they get me a room, and my midwives are still with me, my doula's with me, and Moses is with me. And need some water. And the doula's still helping me with my breathing and whatnot. And at this point, I'm really beating myself up about having to come to the hospital. But I asked the nurse, like, I need some relief now. What can I take now while waiting for the epidural? And they gave me, I don't remember what pain medication through an IV, and it helped, I guess. It took off the edge. It wasn't unbearable, but I ended up needing 2 doses because the first dose didn't do anything. I don't know if I have a high tolerance or what. But the anesthesiologist was actually in my room within like 10 minutes. So he came pretty quickly. The epidural itself is a process. I thought it would have been quick, but it's not. Mind you, he's trying to get this epidural in between contractions. So there's times where he has to stop and wait for me to have my contraction. And I thought it was just a quick little puncture in your back and bam, you're done. No, he has to like put a catheter through your spine or whatever. I don't really know. Because that's not the route I planned to go, so I didn't really educate myself on that. But it was intense, but it wasn't as intense as the pelvic pain. So I just held Moses, and we got through it. It took about 10-15 minutes, and they give you a little button, and at first I didn't even press the button. I just let the epidural do its thing, and it worked wonders. The only problem that we ran into was that the epidural almost completely put my labor to a halt. like I said, I was 7 meters before getting to the hospital. 6 hours into being at the hospital, I was still at 7 centimeters. So that was rough, because I'm constantly beating myself up for leaving the birthing center. And now in my head, I'm thinking like, why did I even leave? I could have been done with this by now. But, oh, hold on. Excuse me. So I'm beating myself up with the idea of leaving the birthing center because I could have already been done with labor. However, I was able to get the relief that I wanted. A few more hours go by and the OBGYN, says, you're not really progressing. We want to give you a little Pitocin. Normally I would have said no. Like if they offered the Pitocin right as I had got there, that would have been a problem for me. But the fact that my labor halted completely, I was like, okay, let's do it. So they gave me a little bit of Pitocin and things started picking back up. And my epidural wore out. So they gave me a new bag of epidural. And at that point, the doctor came and checked me. He's like, if things aren't moving along, because your water's been broke for 48 hours, we might want to consider a C-section. And I got so scared. I was like, no, that's not what I want to do at all. No offense to people who get C-sections, but that's just not what I wanted. But right as he said that, he checked and the baby's head was damn near in my vagina. And I was like, oh, it's on and popping, let's go. So I started pushing with contractions. That was tough because you have an epidural. You can't really feel what you're pushing. You just know that you're pushing. So, I push and push and push, and the nurse is helping me, which nurses really should get paid more because the nurse was there with me the whole time, and the doctor just came in to check me and to deliver. So props to the nurses. But anyways, oh, I kind of said something backwards. My epidural didn't wear out before pushing. During pushing, the bag was empty, and I needed a new bag because that pelvic pain was coming back so intense, even more intense than before. So they gave me a new bag, and I had to actually stop pushing, which really sucked because according to Moses and the doula, the head was like out of my vagina, or you could see the head. And it sucked because I had to stop. Like that pain was just, oh my God. Like I couldn't bear through that pelvic pain, which is solely from breaking my hip. So I don't want to scare you guys, but that pain is from my hip. So we stop for about 30 to 45 minutes. And I asked them if they could bring in a mirror. They have a full length mirror. And I wanted to watch my baby being born. I start pushing some more, and all of a sudden I see his head. And I gather all the strength, every single little bit of strength inside of me to push this baby out. Oh my God, like I couldn't believe it. The doctor comes in and he positions me a little bit differently. Mind you, the nurse did a bunch of different positions to help push, which props to her because each position provided different benefits. But the doctor came in and he had me angle my bottom a certain way, and I was really effective at pushing that way. And right when the head was like fully crowning, he had me stop pushing, and me and Moses got to touch our baby's head. Oh, I'm gonna start crying. That was the most magical thing ever. And at that point, again, I gathered all of my strength. Mind you, labor and delivery, the best way that I can explain it is that you're at the gym. Mind you, my water broke for like 40 hours or 48 hours. It's like you're at the gym for 40 hours nonstop with just little 2-minute breaks in between your cardio. That's it. And your body is working. Although you're not physically like moving, your body's working and you're sweating, and it's a lot. So I gather all the strength and I push him out, and out comes this full head of hair. Here's his head of hair. Full head of hair, beautiful baby boy. They put him right on my chest. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was that at the birthing center, the midwives were gonna let Moses catch the baby. At the hospital, the OBGYN said he couldn't because it's not sterile. Well, giving birth is not a sterile situation. You're not in a sterile environment. We touched our baby's head. There's no reason why Moses couldn't have catched the baby. But at that point in time, I just didn't argue because I was so close to having him out that I didn't care. Another thing is we wanted delayed cord clamping, and they cut the cord right away. Again, I was so out of it from what had just happened that I couldn't advocate for myself. And that was a little tough, but that's okay. Also, the nurses and all them started wiping down the baby and wanted to weigh the baby, and my doula spoke up for me, which I'm so thankful for her. Spoke up and said, you guys don't wait for the golden hour. You guys don't wait for that bonding hour to be over and then wipe the baby and weigh the baby. And right when she said that, the nurses were like, oh yeah, like it sparked something in them, and they totally backed off, which I respected a lot. So that was amazing. After that, our doula stayed with us for a little bit to kind of, ensure breastfeeding was going well, which the hospital gave great breastfeeding support. Another thing that had happened was the baby had a fever, unfortunately. Not right away, but the next day he had a 100.8 fever. So they did some blood. They took some blood, and everything came back fine. So I'm not sure why he had the fever, and the fever went away the very next temperature check. So I don't know what was going on or what had happened there, but overall, let me turn the page here and make sure I haven't forgotten any notes. Oh, let me tell you how much he weighed. He weighed 7 pounds, 15 ounces, and he came at 5:54 p.m. on 3/27/19. Here you go, baby. And the reason why you see me feeding my breast milk out of a bottle now is because the baby has a lip tie, and he has a really hard time latching. We have a consult this Friday to get it fixed, and we're gonna go right back into breastfeeding because it's just being able to feed my baby just off my body is one of the most amazing feelings ever. So I can't wait to get rid of this bottle and just solely breastfeed, but we'll see how that goes with his procedure. I want to say that even though we took a detour and went from the birthing center to the hospital, I don't regret it. We had an amazing birthing experience. There were a few hiccups, but I feel like we adapted pretty well. I feel like, there's a lot of babies out there that are born sick. The person across the way from me in the hospital, her baby, as soon as she delivered, they had to go to the NICU and stay there. So, what can I really say? Like, I'm super, super thankful that everything went the way that it did. I'm thankful for my doula. Thank you so much. Her name was also Ashley. I'm so thankful for her. Just the fact that she kept me sane we had conversations. We talked as if we were like, you know, friends. It didn't seem like a business interaction. Like she was there because I paid her to be there. No, she was there to support me as a mom, and she was also pregnant. So I thought that's even more special. Like, she knows exactly what I'm going through. I know exactly what she's going through. And I felt like we vibed really well. I really enjoyed her company. I couldn't have been more happy with her. I'm thankful for my midwives. I'm thankful for them, you know, letting me transfer to the hospital in a timely manner. I'm just thankful for the whole process. Like, everything about it was great. We chose not to have family come up for the first week so me and Moses can establish a routine and get to know our baby. And that was probably the best decision that we could make. Another person in the hospital had like 10 visitors there while they were giving birth, and nothing against that, but I just personally wouldn't be able to do that. Giving birth is a lot. It's a lot. Your body just went through crazy amounts of hoops, and to have people watch that in your most vulnerable state, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do it. But we took lots of videos and lots of pictures and of the actual labor and birth. Like, I have pictures of him coming out of my vagina. And if I want to show my family those, I can. But I didn't want them there in the moment. So, yeah. I couldn't be more happier. Being a mom is the most wonderful feeling. I can't even explain it to you. I feel whole. I feel like this little human is depending on me, and it's my job to have him thrive and just take care of him. So, and I also want to give a big shout out to my boyfriend Moses, my birth partner, my life partner, my soulmate. I couldn't have done this without him. He's done amazing these last 9 months. He's helped me so much through so many different obstacles, and I'm gonna start crying. And I couldn't be more thankful for him. You know, we both never went through labor and delivery before, so we didn't know what to expect. And he just tried his hardest to be there for me the best that he knew how. And I couldn't be more thankful. So, all right, guys, if you have any questions about my labor and delivery, feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to you. I'm so excited about this journey. My pregnancy journey is over. My motherhood journey is just starting. So thank you all for tuning in these last 9 months and to a lifetime of joy with my little baby. I'm so excited. So, all right, thank you. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys.